more about the meeting, I do want to invite all of you who are residents of the Rio Verde Foothills who have not yet signed the petition. Sometime in this meeting, can you go to the back of the room and sign the petition? The petition does not have the force of law, but signatures are going to be needed to convince Maricopa County to negotiate with the city of Scottsdale in good faith. The exact wording is really very simple. It's nothing to worry about. You're signing anything away like your firstborn. It's we, the undersigned property owners within the Rio Verde Foothills, are in support of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors negotiating with the city of Scottsdale on an intergovernmental agreement to create an immediate interim water solution for the Rio Verde Foothills. Simply put, please go negotiate in good faith. An IGA, if any of you don't know about it, is an intergovernmental agency agreement, and it involves one municipality working with another municipality to share resources. Governments like it because it's easier to put together, it's easier to fund, it's easier to enforce, and that's true for both sides of the agreement. So IGAs are where most governmental agencies I know get together with another governmental agency. It's my and others' opinion that an IGA with Scottsdale is actually our best opportunity to obtain short-term water access at this point in time. Thus, we need many, many residents to sign this petition so we can persuade the county to negotiate. There's also another sign-up sheet at the back of the room for you to give your name, your phone number, and your email if you want a digital link sent to you rather than sign here. And that digital link's also in the invitations that you received for this meeting. That digital link will also allow you to share this petition with your neighbors without having to knock on their door or call them or drop over. You can just use email and just send it on to them and ask, wouldn't you consider signing this petition? And then please say, I did, which will shorten the time they have to think about it. Second, I personally want to thank all the attendants tonight, and I appreciate it, as does many other people. And last week's attendance was also excellent. I think it's a wonderful sign that we in the Rio Verde Foothills community are growing tired of the fighting, the bickering, and the accusations that frankly haven't resulted in any water access. But collectively, I submit, we all want a short-term solution for our water crisis. We all want water for all our community. That's what I believe. Thus, tonight's meeting is about identifying a path to a short-term interim water solution. It's not about long-term solutions like district or EPCO or any other solution. I also want to remind you, and you'll get several reminders, we will have another third meeting next Tuesday. It won't be held here. It'll be held in the beautiful Miller Ranch. The Miller Ranch is out on 136. Follow 136, get on the dirt, go through the boulders, and it's up on the hill on the right. They raise Missouri and train Missouri Foxtrotters, which is a wonderful breed of gaited horses, and the association name for Missouri Foxtrotters motto is, to ride one is to own them. They're that smooth. And I consider them middle-aged horses for me. You know, when you don't want to bounce in the saddle anymore and you're a rider, get yourself a gaited horse. And they don't really come much better than Missouri Foxtrotters. Just a little pitch there, and I don't even have anything to do with Mill Ranch. This evening, we're going to have 5 short presentations, counting mine, and then we plan on taking questions. We hope together these presentations provide a context for appreciating the urgency of the crisis and why you should sign the petition at the back of the room. I do ask that if you have a question, wait till the question time, and please don't yell a comment out or yell a question out until we get to that time. It's quite disruptive, actually. My presentation, I'm going to take a few minutes to give you my view of the current situation and why my husband and I signed the petition. We've gotten some of our neighbors to do the same. After my presentation, you'll hear from John Horneuer, I always hesitate on his name, but I got it, I think, this time. Rio Verde Foothills water hauler and RV yard resident. Mike Miola, who is the owner of Silver Spurs, the largest quarter horse breeding in the nation, right here in Rio Verde Foothills. Robert Mitchell, partner and trial attorney with Tiffany and Bosco, and Representative Colodin, our House Representative for District 3. So my presentation is to talk to you why my husband and I signed that petition. Some of this will be a repetition for those of you who are here at the first meeting, but repetition is the mother of knowledge, so hang in there. I want to say the facts that I believe in. I think the entire Rio Verde communities does want assurance to access to safe, affordable water, and I think Scottsdale has to be part of the solution. There doesn't seem to me another alternative source that can obtain both SRP and Central Arizona Project water, process it, and make it available at such a close standpipe facility for our community. And I think because the city of Scottsdale I think the city of Scottsdale gets to decide what are the terms to use the water because it's their water. And they have a right to say what's acceptable to them. They've made it clear they don't want to work with private entities. They want to work with a government entity through an IGA. And they also view that working with a private entity could put them at liability that would cause some problems for their own taxpayers, their own constituents. And they've said they're a government and not a utility. They find this possible legal liability responsibility is unacceptable to them. They've been very clear about those things. So some background. Recently in February, the Attorney General Mays issued an expedited opinion that stated, if there's a need to provide water to a community on an emergency basis, then the County Board of Supervisors may contract with another governmental entity to provide water on an emergency basis. And she went on to say later that one way to do this is an IGA, which Scottsdale would like. After the AG opinion, according to Representative Cook, a group including his attorney, other legislators, including some in this room, the county attorney, the city attorney, and their staffs met and agreed that they would support moving forward towards an agreement between the city of Scottsdale and the county. The city of Scottsdale moved amazingly fast after these other meetings. In 7 days, they produced a resolution which they presented to our county. The resolution listed the conditions for which the city wants agreement by the Board of Supervisors before they'll allow the use of their standpipe to obtain water for our community. So the document, in my opinion, was definitely meant to be a starting of the negotiation because it says draft on every page. It was distributed really widely, and it gives authority to their staff to work with county staff to come to some agreement on what the final terms will actually be. Given that I thought the authorities and officials had teed up this situation, I was very, very surprised and disappointed that our county's response was not that, yes, we're willing to negotiate and here's some things we don't like about your resolution. Instead, they wrote their own resolution, which argued that the city of Scottsdale proposed IGA was impractical, inefficient, and overly burdensome to Rio Verde Foothill residents. And they created their own resolution, which states that the best water to address the crisis in the water crisis is for Scottsdale to allow the private service provider EPCOR short-term standpipe access. No other water solutions were mentioned in this resolution. Scottsdale City Council member Solane Whitehead noted, it's the second time in 9 months that the supervisors have voted against a water solution for these RVF residents. She was referring to the first time that she called a failure was their failure to approve the district. And now the board's refusal to negotiate the intergovernmental agency agreement is the second failure that she's referring to. The district would have been a government entity. It would have been able to have an IGA, and Scottsdale has said and still says it would work with the district. On the other hand, the county or the city has made it clear that they will not work a private entity. So the county rejects negotiations with the city, Scottsdale, and insists the best plan is to work with EPCOR, and Scottsdale is not going to do this. So the county has rejected a second possible solution, and that was what Councilwoman Whitehead was pointing out. The failure of the county to begin negotiations is mystifying to me, and I think to some others, given that the county, situation had been teed up, and given that Scottsdale is in control of who gets to use their standpipe. They basically hold the cards. So why is the county continually saying we're going to get our water from EPCOR when Scottsdale continually says not out of our standpipe is the way I view it? So given that Scottsdale has the necessary processing facilities and the standpipe, here's what I believe. Unacceptable demands are not going to get us water. County arguments of what they perceive as weakness in the city of Scottsdale resolution is not going to get us water. The county's assertion that EPCOR plans the best plan is not going to get us water. Indeed, these demands may cause city of Scottsdale to just walk away from negotiations, particularly as the mega drought continues. Furthermore, the situation seems to become intensely personal between the mayor and the supervisor Galvin, complicating moving forward on any agreement. As one commentator summarized it, it seems that both sides have dug very deep trenches. Wasting more time fighting is not going to get us water. Tragically, in my opinion, what was going to be a good faith negotiation, I had hoped, became laden with personal arguments, and we, the RFE community, are the ones caught in the middle, and we are the ones that are going to pay the price. Therefore, it's clear to me that the Board of Supervisors should negotiate with the City of Scottsdale to secure water for our community as soon as possible. I believe they need to stop being a roadblock with demands that are unacceptable to the City of Scottsdale and actually participate in getting us water now. We need water now. Therefore, that's why we signed the petition, and therefore that is why I and others are asking you to please sign the petition and get as many people to sign it as you can. The more signatures, the more influence we're going to have to force some negotiations to happen. So with that, that's the end of my hopefully reasonably short presentation. I gotta catch my place on my other piece of paper. Our next speaker then is John Hornewer. He's, as many people know, a longtime water hauler in the Rio Verde Foothills. And I've come to know him. He has, and his wife Doreen, an incredible passion for our community, incredible supporter of the success of our community. So John, will you step up and take the microphone? You have to hold it.
Okay, hello everybody. Oh, wow. What are we doing? We're 80 days. 80 days. We are on a path that is unsustainable. I don't know what I need to do to improve. I'm in contact with the Attorney General on this as well. We are on a path that is unsustainable. It's not about the number of trucks or the number of drivers I have. It's about the legal sources of available water, and I'm telling you, they're not there. Everybody, for one, should be signing the petition to just tell the county to do your job and negotiate and get us water. The Attorney General put the responsibility on the County Board of Supervisors to get us water. They didn't want to do it, but they have to. This from Representative Smith on March 17th. What a breath of fresh air. He wrote the Attorney General too. And he was like, what are you doing? And I'm paraphrasing, what are you doing? But the key word that I heard from his sentence was prosecution, which means they want to know who the key players are of why we are here. there are clearly key players causing us to be here, and they want to know who it is, and I support them every way, which is also why I support Miller Ranch and their effort to expose the county and put them out. Okay, this, no, it's not my fault. It's Ortega. This and that and this and that. You know what? No. The AG clarified that, so we know who's at fault. Step up to the plate. That's what the petition is about. It's only to, as a community, get together and in one loud voice to the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, the people that can and will fix this, say, get off your ass and fix this. That is what it's about. Okay, we need support on that. This isn't EPCOR versus the DWID. Cody, if I heard of a solid, viable solution, I'd be like, yeah, Cody, you the man. I haven't heard anything. We're at 80 days. I keep hearing what's coming, and I hope so. Because I've been hearing that now.
Where do you think March 17th came from? Where?
So I'm saying, I hope so, because this isn't about the DWID, this isn't about EPCOR. But I hope so, because...
You're going to call me out, I can respond.
I know, and I'm glad you are.
I respect you, thank you.
All I'm saying is this is an unsustainable path. And as of date right now, I don't understand what the other solution is, and if I don't understand it, I'm sure other people don't as well. So I really hope tonight is a productive meeting. That's the point of these meetings, is to get together as a community and come up with a resolution, and hopefully today we get one, okay? But again, this is an unsustainable path. That is the one thing that is absolutely mandatory that everybody understands. Once we hit triple digits, no, our community's screwed. Okay? Thank you.
I agree.
Next is Mike Miola. Mike, as I told you earlier, is the owner of the largest quarter horse breeding ranch in the nation. And Mike, we'd love to hear your presentation.
Thank you very much. My wife, Michelle, and I own Silver Spurs Equine, and we breed quarter horses. They're not gated horses. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's what we do. In any event, I had a tissue. Last time I was here, I was crying. So, like I said last week, all I want is an immediate solution to the water crisis we're in now. You've heard from John how desperate it is. You've heard all of these stories about what's going back and forth and back and forth. I'm sick of it. So let's get our county board of supervisors and the city of Scottsdale to negotiate in good faith, plain and simple, and hopefully this petition will get them to move somehow. Because from last week to this week, I didn't see much going on. All I know is my neighbors don't have water, and that's gotta end. When we first bought our property many, many years ago in the Foothills, and we love the Foothills, water was not even an issue. We dug our wells, and water was plentiful, and things have changed. So what I'd like to talk about, just for a minute or two, is what we can do to conserve water. Because even if the standpipes are opened again, we still have to conserve water. And what we're doing at Silver Spurs is the following. We go through about 60,000 gallons of water a month to water our horses. So we're putting in this system. I hope to God it works. When you hear it, you're really going to go, you think? First of all, it's going to recycle all of the water that goes into our septic system, all the gray water that goes into the septic system, and recycle that as pure water. Okay, that's nice. But here's the kicker. Now, they say, and they're putting it in, and everybody's welcome to come and see it if it actually happens. It's supposed to go in about 3 weeks. they're going to take the manure from our horses and squeeze the water out of that and purify that. So the system that they're putting on my ranch is going to recycle about 25 to 35,000 gallons of water a month. About 85% of our water needs, we wouldn't need to draw from our well anymore. Great deal. Replenish the aquifer. And if it works, I'll put in a larger system that will take all of our horses' manure. I have to laugh when I say it because I'm just as skeptical as you are. And generate 100,000 gallons of water a month. That's what they said. So I hope it works. And the reason I'm telling you this is, this is our community. We love the Foothills. Everybody in this room loves the Foothills. We don't want anything to happen. We don't want property values to go down. We don't want people to lose their livelihoods. So let's do whatever we can to conserve water, in addition to getting our politicians to get off their butts and help us and do what they're supposed to do in the first place. Thanks a lot.
I know how much manure 2 horses produce and how long it takes to pick it up. Mike, we might want to talk a little bit. Yeah. Karen, did you want to come up now, or is that okay? Karen whispered in my ear that she would like to say something about mediation here. Be brief.
I'm going to be brief. Okay, really quick. I had a call. I've been trying to reach the AG's office anyways. Bill Mundell called me and talked to me about the fact that the AG's office is suggesting, and I have a feeling, Cody, you were maybe involved with that too, maybe, is mediation with the city, with the county, and with some concerned residents. People who want to go to the table, and by the way, they want you to pay to have a seat at the table. I told them, how ironic is that? We got Scottsdale and we got county. We don't have water. We pay Maricopa County taxes. And they want me to pay my fair share to be at the table. I hope you guys find that as ironic as I do. To me, it just doesn't hold water. But what we've had some conversations about this mediation, and we think, you know what? It'd be behind a closed door. We know how some of those behind the closed doors go. People start finger pointing, county, city, and we know how that goes. I'm tired of it. So what we are thinking is holding our own mediation in public. County comes, Scottsdale comes, AG office comes. No more behind the closed doors. We want it in public, and we want to have a voice. That's where I'm at. So, okay, I guess that's my answer. I just want to see if anybody else in the room would agree that you would want something like that. So I guess I should say, if somebody is against that, raise your hand. Okay, there you go. We're gonna try to get them all on the calendar. We will send out an invite. I will make sure anybody who gets the emails from the team that you get an email of the invite, and I'll make sure media gets it too. And we need to have them here. And if they don't show, we're gonna make some noise. Sound good? Okay.
Thank you, Karen. That was news to me, and I appreciate knowing about it. That's an interesting turn of events. Next, we have Robert Mitchell, who's a local lawyer with his own law practice. He's a senior trial attorney with Tiffany and Bosco as well. And unless that's your own practice. He was at our last meeting where we learned that he's recently researched the law and regulations around issues related to our water crisis, including activities of the Board of Supervisors. He also talked about possible litigation. We love the fact you're willing to come back. So. I just had him first.
You're good.
I'm happy to follow Representative Cullen if you want to get up and speak first. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Karen, for that announcement. If that turns out to be true, that's great news. And that's the kind of public proceeding that may lead to a solution. I also thought I was going to follow Representative Cullen, so let me just say before I get started my remarks, we really appreciate your coming out. It's so refreshing when an elected official remembers after the election the people they represent, and we're grateful that you have an interest in coming out and speaking to us. We look forward to hearing what you have to say, so thank you. I might mention, if you go visit, and I promise I haven't spoken with Representative Cullen about this, but if you go visit his website, you'll see a good statement about water issues and concerns and his support for the RVF community. And if you look up in the right-hand corner, you see a little red button that says donate. I hope you go up there and you tomorrow remember to make a little donation. We need more elected officials like this who care and are responsive to the community. And by the same token, those who we've been trying to invite and come out to hear us, who have not come out to hear us, let's remember those at the next election cycle. So in any event, good evening. I'm Robert Mitchell. I'm an attorney in Phoenix who represents Miller Ranch. Miller Ranch has been a resident of Rio Verde Foothills for over 20 years. The ranch has a large investment in land, buildings, offices, a covered arena, a high-tech walker, and other expensive infrastructure in order to care for and breed high-quality horses. Like many of you, the owners of Miller Ranch who are here tonight, Lothar and Monica Rowe, are deeply concerned about Rio Verde Foothills and the status of the current water crisis and the seeming inability of the elected governmental leaders to step up to the plate and deal with this issue on the county's behalf and solve this, even the immediate short-term solution of just finding water while a long-term solution can be worked out. Mr. Rowe has been an international businessman for many, many years. He knows that sometimes you just have to politely and legally knock heads to get attention. And one thought he had was maybe the thing we have to do to get the county's attention is frankly to sue them. And so he stepped in and authorized us as his counsel to look into that and to research what might be done in that regard. Let me just give you a little background. Scottsdale in 2016 gave notice that it could not guarantee long-term water coverage for the Rio Verde Foothills. Scottsdale water was turned off on January 1st of this year. I'm not sure when Scottsdale gave unequivocal notice that it was turning off the water. I understand that was some 2 years ago. But whatever it was, I know from reading the press releases and the articles that are out there, it's been well known for months, going back into 2022, that the water was going off on January 1st. It's estimated that there are some 500 to 700 households in Rio Verde Foothills that are affected by the lack of water. This means roughly 1,000 people are living here without a dependable source of water. The current crisis, and it's a crisis, has been foreseeable to the Board of Supervisors for years from a planning perspective. And why do I say that? Well, going back to July of 2005, the Rio Verde Foothills Development Plan that was adopted by the Board of Supervisors and others confirms this point. The 2005 development plan acknowledged three main points. It was a 200-page document, very comprehensive, but three main points for purposes of tonight. Number one, the water shortage was a serious problem. Subdivision applications should be denied due to the lack of certified water supply. And number three, a plain acknowledgement that wildcat subdivisions were springing up in the area. Now, one has to ask, how many such wildcat building permits has the county issued and approved since 2005 without planning for the future? Why was this allowed without also taking action to assure adequate water? Why has the county not acted for those 18 years since then to address this problem, either directly or in concert with our state legislators? Representative David Cook has been quoted recently as saying the continued suffering, and that's his word, suffering by the residents here, is a result of Maricopa County Board of Supervisors and their, quote, lack of action, end of quote. As you probably know, and was mentioned earlier, the city of Scottsdale adopted and unanimously approved a plan to provide short-term water after the turnoff of the spigot on January 1st through what was called an intergovernmental agency. That's the kind of agreement that the Arizona Attorney General recently came out and said was the right vehicle to be able to work out and solve this problem by the county. That would give the leaders of the county time to try to find a solution, a long-term solution to the problem. But the county board of supervisors, when it considered the Scottsdale proposal, simply rejected the plan. Now, in response, the city of Scottsdale has come out and said the city recognizes that Maricopa County may have concerns with elements of that proposal, but rather than directing their staff to work with the city to address their concerns, they just rejected the city's proposal outright. And the city went on to say, should Maricopa County want to re-engage on Scottsdale's draft, that was the word, draft intergovernmental agreement, it remains on the tables. Now, at a press conference after the meeting of the Board of Supervisors on March 3rd, it's reported in the press that County Supervisor Tom Galvin was asked, what are the next steps that will be taken to provide water for RVF? He responded, and I think if this is true, it's very uncaringly, I think Scottsdale now needs to just figure it out. Now, in scouring the news today in preparation for tonight, I could find nothing by way of articles in the news or press releases that the county is in any kind of active negotiations with the city of Scottsdale to work out these differences. To me, it just sounds like the typical political posturing and standoff between people with egos while the people continue to suffer. Maybe someone tonight will tell us what it is that the county is actively working on to come up with a short-term solution and what they are doing. And if that happens, great. All I'll say about it is it's been something that the county's done a very poor job of getting the word out. In last week's meeting, I discussed our preliminary legal analysis on potential claims against the county related to the water crisis. What might be asserted in a court of law to try to get the County Board of Supervisors' attention? And while this is clearly a one-of-a-kind situation, and that's evident by the press around the world, around the globe that's reporting on what's happening here, and it's a matter of legal opinion on which reasonable legal minds could disagree, I feel, and I've expressed to you in our meeting last week, we have some strong legal arguments in our favor. Interestingly, I've spoken with other lawyers who live in your community. Obviously, they're not unbiased, but they're certainly interested and well-read on this issue, who have commented to me that they thought about those same legal theories and agree that those are ones that have merit. I also found it interesting to read this week in a press release by Representative Austin Smith that he was quoted as citing the very same statutory prohibition on acting in concert to circumvent the subdivision laws with respect to water supply that we did last week in our very own legal analysis. So we feel there is a basis for asserting a legal claim to try to get the County Board of Supervisors' attention. Nobody wants this to be a protracted matter, but we need to find a way to get their attention to deal with the people that can solve the problem. Unfortunately, despite our thinking that a lawsuit might garner the Board of Supervisors' attention, and many in the people in the community wanting to find a solution, not that many people have reached out so far to Miller Ranch to want to participate. I can tell you that over the last week, I think it's just under 24 people that have said, we want to be plaintiffs in that lawsuit. We want to pursue the claim against the county. Now, that's great. Thank you to those 24 good people who want to be involved, but it's not enough. Miller Ranch can't do this alone. They should not have to do this alone. And frankly, it won't be as impactful or as successful if we only have a handful of residents that join in that fight. An action by hundreds of homeowners, of property owners, would send a powerful message to the public. If the county were to file a motion to dismiss on some technical legal grounds, a judge might be just a little bit more reluctant to dismiss a case brought by several hundred homeowners without water than it would a handful of homeowners, which begs the question, where are the other homeowners? If there's 500 to 700 property owners without water and 1,000 people or more who don't have access to water, it's important that we have a critical mass. And I opine that critical mass is 200 at a minimum people to show, number one, to show that there's unity among the homeowners here about holding the county responsible and in making the sharing of costs of the litigation practical. If you had 200 homeowners who each wanted to contribute $500 to the cause, which I understand is probably less than some people are now paying for the water, that's $100,000. That's a lot of litigation. That could get the case way down the road and try to get enough action behind ourselves that the county may very well start taking us seriously. So what we plan to do at Miller Ranch is we want to wait and see what the community involvement looks like and develops over the next couple of weeks. Next week, Miller Ranch has graciously offered their arena to host another meeting. Hopefully we'll get even more people that show up and want to express their interest in doing something to get attention of the county. But if broader participation is not indicated soon, Miller Ranch may just have to decide to go a different avenue. Maybe they just focus on appeals to local leaders and use of the press. But unfortunately, there's been a lot of appeals to politicians and a lot of press over the last year or two. And frankly, we don't even have a short-term solution, much less a long-term solution. So if anyone has any questions or comments for us after the meeting, please come up and speak with Lothar and Monica Rowe or myself. We're happy to take your questions, to talk with you about this. We're also happy to take your phone calls. You can call either of us. I'm easy to find. Just Google Robert Mitchell Attorney. Very easy to find. We're not going to solicit you. We're not going to call you up. We're not going to ring your doorbell. If you want to participate, you need to reach out to one of us and tell us you want to be a part of this. If not, we're not going to certainly harass you. So.
And we have a sheet in the back for anybody who wants to be involved. You can put your name, email, phone number, so we can get, sorry I didn't let you know that, so that we can provide that information.
Well, thank you, Karen, and thank you very much for hearing us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell, appreciate it. I didn't mean to reverse the order. I didn't know, but I think this is going to work out fine because next presenter, and we're very appreciative that you're here, is House Representative Colligan for District 3 in Maricopa County. I believe he's preparing a bill to address the Rio Verde water crisis. Indeed, some of us talked with the city of Scottsdale not too long ago, and they confirmed that they're working in partnership with the representative, as well as Senator Kavanaugh and others on House Bill 2561. And I believe the Scottsdale's deputy attorney is going to work on the wording of that draft and resolve that fairly soon. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but I'd love to hear what you have to say, Representative.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. Yeah, that's my bill. Senator Kavanaugh and I are running Mears legislation, him through the Senate, me through the House, try to get this resolved a little bit faster. So I make a change to mine, he makes it to his, and vice versa. And I also love to get the last word, because as every attorney knows, you definitely want to know the full universe of information before you go up to speak. So I represent District 3, got elected to represent this district back in the fall. And about 2 weeks in, I start getting frantic calls about the Rio Verde water situation, which I was kind of acquainted with because I've come up here several times while I was campaigning. I talked about how you all get your water, and heard from people, oh, the city of Scottsdale supplying it, they're a pretty stable provider. They sent a letter that maybe things, might not be forever, but, it's been 30 years. And I'm kind of looking at it going, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't sound so great. I don't know that I would rely on that. Surprise, surprise that we ended up here. It's not really a surprise because I do want to talk about how we ended up here because I have this unique dual role in the state legislature, right? I represent you. In fact, aside from the Board of Supervisors, I'm basically the only government you have up here, which means I'm your only hammer, at least if I can get 31 of my colleagues to agree. But I also serve the state of Arizona as a whole. And what you guys are at the end of is a very long pipeline of horse manure. And a lot of bad decisions by decades and decades of legislators, congresspeople, et cetera, right? So how did we get here in the global picture? Well, we got here, and I try to impress this upon my colleagues. You'd be surprised at how myopic things get down at the legislature. We got here because we don't have enough water in Arizona, right? What happened? Because we didn't have enough water, the Colorado River started drying up. Now, years and years ago, in exchange for building the Central Arizona Project, Arizona did something monumentally stupid. And in exchange for that federal money, we traded our senior water rights away. And so we are the low man on the totem pole. So when the Colorado River started drying up, and it's below even the furthest back historical record that we have was 11.6 million acre feet, now it's like 7 or 8, okay? When that started happening, we started progressively getting cut off and started declaring shortages. Tier 1, we're almost certain to go into Tier 2. Scottsdale saw this happening, and quite prudently, I fully understand why they did it. They said, we've been supplying water to Rio Verde. Well, we have a duty to our constituents, the residents of Scottsdale. We have to circle the wagons. We got to keep Scottsdale water for Scottsdale because the CAP allotments, Central Arizona Project allotments that we're getting are almost certain to be cut. It was fully rational. But from there, it kind of became about politics because pretty soon there was a solution presented to Scottsdale that would have supplied new water for Rio Verde that wouldn't have cost the city of Scottsdale anything. Then it started becoming about the agenda for development and this and that, and they tried to tack a lot of other things onto it. And I got some friendly criticism or perhaps improvement suggestions about the last time I came up to speak in Rio Verde, where we absolutely lit the city of Scottsdale on fire, but we did it for a reason, right? I'm a guy, I would be perfectly happy sitting in my office all day, writing and revising legislation. If you want to talk about what I like to do, that's what I like to do. In my firm, I'm not the guy who argues in front of the jury. I'm the guy who writes the SCOTUS briefs, Supreme Court briefs, right? That's what I like to do. Just lock me in a room and let me work on policy, okay? But the problem is, if you don't move public perception, then your policy is not going to go anywhere, right? There has to be the heat. So we made the city of Scottsdale feel the heat. And they came to the table. And they did come to the table. Before I get into what happened when they got to the table, though, let me talk about the way that I break down the problem, which is we have a short-term problem and we got a long-term problem. So it looks like there's several potential solutions for a long-term fix. And by long-term, I mean 6 months to 3 years out. There should be a good, stable, long-term water supply for Rio Verde. Fingers crossed. But nobody's going to live through 3 Arizona summers without water. Not going to happen. And so the short-term solution, all paths lead to the city of Scottsdale. There's numerous ways they could get the water to supply to you. But at the end of the day, they have to play ball. If the city of Scottsdale doesn't play ball, you're out of luck. If the county doesn't play ball, then there's some stuff the city of Scottsdale could still do. Without the city, you got nothing. And what they wanted when they came to the table, it was a lot of bickering in the media. I saw I'm getting calls from people, this side, that side, or whatever. So one of my colleagues had the great idea. Why don't we just get the city in a room? Okay. Why don't we just get the county in a room? Why don't we get the conservative members of the legislature in a room and the liberal members of the legislature in a room? And as opposed to the mediation, why don't we lock the doors of that room and not have media or whatever? And that meeting started out exactly as you fear. I think the mediation went with a ton of finger pointing. And I let it go on for about 5 minutes. And then I said, if we keep doing this all night, we're not going to make any progress towards a solution. Y'all got to stop bickering. What's passed is passed. What's passed is passed. And then I had them go around the room, and I said, I only want to know one thing from you. I don't care how unfairly you've been treated or this or that. We had some Rio Verde residents there too. All I want to know is, I've got this legislation. It went to the floor once. We didn't get the votes, and we actually, for an emergency clause to make it take effect before the summer, We need 40. For 31 just to pass it, but 40 to make it take effect immediately. So I go, all I want to know from each group is, what is your deal breaker? And invariably, we got one answer from the county and their faction in the legislature. We got one answer from the city and their faction. Okay? And the county faction's answer was, our deal breaker is we don't want counties in the water business. I go, great. I wrote it on the whiteboard. No counties in the water business. Scottsdale faction's deal breaker. We believe, and I don't know, frankly, I don't even think this is true, but they believe it, and that's what matters because they hold the cards. They believe that they need to sign an intergovernmental agreement with somebody. So I go, all right, deal breaker. County doesn't want to be the IGA because they don't want to be in the water business. City of Scottsdale wants somebody to sign an IGA with them. I asked, do you care who it is? And they go, no, anybody. We just need the box to check and an indemnity provision. I go, great. I go, county, do you care if somebody else signs an IGA with Scottsdale? No, it doesn't involve us at all. I would say, great, then you can live with it. So none of the bureaucracies want to touch it. Water is very territorial. They don't want to get involved with the turf wars or whatever. So we came up with this idea to create an entity called a standpipe district, which was the best name that I thought of. You know, Kavanaugh, Senator Kavanaugh, he's from New York. And so we want to call it like the Water Authority. I'm like, you're in Arizona, Senator Kavanaugh. We don't call things authority. We don't like authority here. The standpipe district. And it really isn't an authority, okay? It springs into existence if a certain set of circumstances are met that just so happen to pertain to Rio Verde. It's totally voluntary. If you want to join, you join. If you don't want to join, you don't join. And this governmental entity exists for the sole purpose of entering into an IGA with the city of Scottsdale and contracting with a third-party payment processor so that the water can get delivered. The Scottsdale attorneys are happy. They get to check their little box. The county's happy. They don't have to be in the water business. And we get the water flowing pretty quick. But then politics came into the situation again. Politics came into the situation. So we got the problem solved in 2 hours. Probably we got a solution everybody could live with in 2 hours. But then the Dems decided that they wanted things in exchange for giving the votes that we needed to get the problem solved right away. And unfortunately, the thing that they're asking for is something that's not within our power to give. Because we have in Arizona, I know you don't believe this because we're like, we say we're a republic or whatever. Sometimes I think we might be a dictatorship. But in Arizona water, we're actually a monarchy. And there's a woman in the legislature who happens to be chair of the water committee, Gail Griffin, brilliant woman, and she's known as the queen of water. And if she doesn't like something, it doesn't happen in water. Okay, and what the Dems wanted was something that the Queen of Water will never allow to happen, certainly not for something like this, which is they want every single house that's built in the state to have to attain a certificate of assured water supply. That's never going to happen. And I said to them, I go, I've listened to, what you guys had to say in committee, because all the Dems voted against the committee too. They voted against it on the floor. And half of them voted against it just because they said, the Native Americans have suffered historical grievances, therefore we're going to let rich white people in Scottsdale run out of water, which I think is insane. But the rational half of them said, we don't want to vote for this legislation until we actually fix the underlying issue. Which again, I try to impress upon people is that we don't have enough water in the state, we need 450,000 more acre feet. But they view the underlying issue as the wildcat developers, and they've been talking about this wildcat loophole. And I kept sending them the law and saying, where is the loophole? Where is the loophole? What the law says is you can't build 6 or more. You can't act in concert with people to build 6 or more. What's going on? The county should have pursued this. The Department of Real Estate should have pursued this. Nobody's pursued this. I said, if you decide you want to fix the underlying issue, then why don't we start by making the laws that we have easier to enforce? Let's put a private right of action in to enforce them. Let's put some monetary reward in for the enforcement. If you guys want to do it on the front end, we could give the counties the power to deny a building permit if they think the permit is for an illegal subdivision. Right now, they don't have the power to do that. Why don't we do that? And their attorneys were like, yeah, we could do that. So right now, though, the proposal's with the governor's office because the Dems in the legislature, they're taking their steering directions from the governor's office as to see whether she could live with some compromise that the Queen of Water could also live with. Now, I mentioned the original bill failed. You have 14 days to reconsider a bill down in the legislature. So I voted against my own bill so I could bring it back for reconsideration. That deadline expires Thursday. I'm going to try, I think, tomorrow to move for an extension of the reconsideration deadline. At least a few of the Democrats have said that they're going to back that, and we're going to try to push another 14 days. And in those 14 days, one of three things is going to happen. Okay? Either we're going to reach an agreement that has bipartisan support, or I'm going to strip the bill down and offer no concessions and pass it on party lines, and it won't take effect until the fall. Or, and this was the big reason we ran the legislation in the first place, to motivate the city of Scottsdale and the county to come to the table. Because remember, we have the biggest hammer. I tell people, when you get down to the legislature, you got to change your perception, especially if you're like me and you're used to being confined by the law. We have infinite power. We can do anything we want, right? The federal government, they can only do what the U.S. Constitution tells them. We can do anything that the federal or Arizona Constitution doesn't prohibit us from doing. So we can force counties to do things. We can force cities to do things. So y'all better work out a solution or we're going to start forcing you to do things. The third thing that could happen is perhaps the city and the county might sit down and decide they don't want us meddling in their affairs, forcing them to do things. They might just work out a solution to the problem that doesn't require legislation. They've got 16 days. So what I would say is the heat for legislation, we're doing the technical part. Like I said, that's the part I love. But the part I'm not so good at, and I'm glad to have colleagues who are really good at it, like David Cook, who's been very instrumental in all of this. Austin Smith, really good friend of mine, who put out that great press release to the AG, putting her on the spot. But the thing that we need to do is make it politically painful for Democrats, certainly ones in moderate districts, not to vote for this bill. That means we have to tee this up as this is something that they are opposing because, as they said on the floor, I'm not making things up, right? You've got it on video, because they don't think rich white people should get water, right? Because of historic grievances and historic injustices to Native Americans, right? That is not a message that is going to play well with moderates in this state. And if you can raise the temperature a little bit with that narrative, it will help us get the bill across the finish line. I think it's very useful. There'll be plenty of time for kumbayas once the bill passes and gets signed by the governor. So that's a big part of it. The other thing you can do is we had a committee hearing, and one of my friends across the aisle mentioned to me, yeah, that testimony was really compelling, but one of the women who got up to speak, she really put me off the whole situation because she says she has a well and she's not sharing her water. That's very bad. It's very bad optics, right? And I understand most of the people in this community, they are sharing their water. So make sure, if you're not already, you've got water, help out your neighbors. Help out your neighbors, because if we're asking for the state government to do a big lift, like, the first thing we should do is do it locally and voluntarily and all of that, and set a good example and show we're doing everything that we can. And conserve water, right? When I brought the Queen of Water up here, she noted a couple of things about the way the community's set up, right? There's not, and she described it, I can't describe it as well, there's not really appropriate mechanisms to slow down the water so that it seeps into the aquifer when it rains. Things like that, basic stuff. Because she's from Cochise County, she's used to living very rural and with very limited water supplies. And so when people come up and they see things like that, it kind of undermines the message, right? That we're already doing all that we can. So if you're not already taking those conservation measures, I say take them and be very visible about it. And certainly keep pursuing other solutions, right? Legislation is never guaranteed. Certainly not this stuff which I'm keeping together with like a shoestring and hope and pleading and begging. So if you've got other solutions, you got litigation approaches you think are going to work, take those approaches. If you got approaches to negotiate with the county and petition them, because you're their constituents too, take those approaches, right? And the more things you try, the more something's likely to work. And finally, if you'll indulge me for a moment, I want to talk about what we actually need to solve this underlying problem. Because even if the Dems got everything that they wanted, right, even if they got the certificate of assured water supply for every house, it means you couldn't build a house for your kids, right? It's not going to solve the problem. The fundamental problem in this state is that the Phoenix and Tucson, Pinal County metropolitan areas are short of water, right? We're going to get cut off from the Colorado River. That's, in my mind, there's a very high probability of that. And so these situations, this is a one-off situation, sure, but there's going to be many situations after this. And in fact, there are other communities around the state that are already dealing with similar crises. That's one of the challenges of this legislation is everybody knows this is going to be a precedent for the future, and everybody's very, very careful about the precedent that they decide that they want to set. And when we get cut off from the Colorado, we're going to be short 450,000 acre-feet of water for Phoenix, Tucson metro areas. That means Tucson's going to run out of water in less than 10 years. Phoenix metro area is going to have its water supply cut by a third in about 14 years. I've checked with CAP. They don't dispute these numbers. I was shocked that nobody was ever talking about it. And desalinization on the Sea of Cortez is not enough, right? It's not quick enough. It's going to take 20 years. It's going to cost more than $10 billion. It's going to rope municipalities into ruinous take-or-pay contracts. We've got a ton of water right here in the state. It's underground. We have 600 million acre-feet. It's enough to replace the full flow of the Colorado River to lower basin states for 100 years. That means it's enough to last Arizona a really, really long time. Our archaic water laws don't let us desalinate it and pipe it to the cities. That's going to fundamentally have to change, right? There's going to have to be political will for that. Otherwise, we're going to keep running into these crises. Now, I know there's been a lot of division in the community. Again, what's passed is passed. I don't care. Last thing a politician wants to do is get involved in a fight between constituents. I'm here to help you now. I just got into office. I'm here to solve the problem. I'm here for you. So if you ever want to call me, contact me, come to me after the meeting. I'll give you my cell number. You can call me anytime. Whatever you need, I'm there for you. I have your backs. And so thank you very much for having me here tonight.
That is a lot to think about. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your presentation, and I certainly learned a lot from what you were telling us. It is now time for the question and answer period, but I know that my job is to remind you to go to the back of the room and sign the petition if you haven't already done so. There's another petition to indicate your interest and or sign up to be a plaintiff in possible litigation. Please look at those and please sign them if you are willing, and please try to influence many other people to do it, which is the other thing that I believe there's a sign-up sheet for, to volunteer to help with a petition drive, where you actively spend some of your time getting more of your neighbors to sign petitions. It is a simple thing to sign. It's a very simple request to ask the county to negotiate with Scottsdale, get to the table.
That's really useful.
So next, Liz Harris is going to help with the question and answers. This worked well in the last meeting, where if you have a question, you come up. Liz is going to help you with the microphone, because that's not easy, as you can all see. And we'll entertain questions and answers at this time.
Thank you so much, Senator. Lee Harris and Representative Cullinan, thank you so very much. I do have, if I may start the question period myself, a question about this standpipe district.
Sure.
And if you want to perhaps take the microphone again.
Don't tempt a politician.
No. Go ahead. He can answer on that one. On the standpipe district, how is it funded if we have to have indemnity? And how does it differ from a water district in its funding? And it has a five-person panel and a board. Is that correct?
Well, let me disaggregate your question a little bit. First of all, the indemnity question, totally separate. Again, we're the state legislature. We can do anything. So we can just literally put in the legislation, if you're a city and you do this, you're indemnified. Congratulations, and you're done. So that doesn't really have anything to do with the standpipe district's funding or whatever. It's just something the city of Scottsdale wants. Say, give it to them as long as they can get you water. In terms of the funding, we are purposely setting this up to have much more restrictive powers, much fewer powers than any of the other sorts of districts that provide water around the state. I mean, around the state we've got we've got water district, we got AMAs, we got IMAs, we got this, we got that, we got counties. This is the most limited government that you could possibly think of. It's like a shell company, right? A company literally exists to sign a piece of paper with the city of Scottsdale and contract with a third-party water billing provider and make sure that the haulers are delivering water to the place that are delivering water, the people who've opted in and not the people who opted out. Yeah, there's going to be very minimal expenses, right? Particularly, the expense is going to be making sure that the third-party billing and payment processor makes the money, because otherwise no private company is going to want to be a third-party billing and payment provider. And we're kicking around ways to make sure that funding happens. Probably what we'll do is allow them to levy some limited surcharge on the water. Scottsdale set the price of the water. They will get to levy some limited surcharge on top of it in order to pay for that sort of administrative functionality. In terms of the board, what we're thinking currently, subject to change, 3-person board, one appointed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, one appointed by the President of the Senate, one appointed by the Governor. Whatever. Again, these guys literally only exist to sign a piece of paper and hire a third-party payment provider, so who cares? But that's the thing. And so how does it differ from a water district? It has virtually none of the powers of the water district, right? It's there to serve. It's basically there so Scottsdale's lawyers can check a box. That's why it exists.
Can you come up to the microphone
Yeah.
here?
Thank you.
Yeah.
We really needed to have the background, so we appreciate you elucidating on that. And we are in Tier 2A, by the way. Tier 2B is going to be expected a little bit, about 6 months after we had originally thought it was going to be because of the limited amount of snow pack into Lake Powell. But we are currently in Tier 2A.
Thank you for correcting me.
I have other things to say, but I want to ask specifically regarding the comments you just made for a standpipe district. Who is the source of water for this standpipe district? Do they not have to procure a source and pay for it to come through the standpipe?
There's various potential sources, and I could answer that question more fulsomely, but I'm not going to because I've been asked to keep that kind of under my hat. So.
Okay, all right. And just to say thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all the work that you've done on our behalf. I'm personally very grateful. I've been involved in this for many years, so hopefully we can come to resolution soon. I want to acknowledge the amount of work that's gone into trying to solve this problem by the members of this community. And what I'm hearing when we listen to Richard and Mike is it's a call to action to us. And many of us have worked hard on this project in the past, and rallying at this point in time might be a little challenging for people. We're kind of tired and kind of beat up. And so I guess what I'm here to do is to ask all of you, what can you do? What will you do to participate in this action rather than just being satisfied with what you heard tonight? And maybe you signed the petition and maybe there's something you've considered, maybe you're not committed to. What is it that you're going to do to further this action? How can you take a stand at this point? And if you're tired and you know your neighbors are tired, they're tired of hearing about it, it's been devastating on this community. So I guess I'm here to place a call for action to each of you, that you really look deep and decide that you're going to take a stand. You're going to put your name on the volunteer list. You're going to figure out who you're going to talk to in your neighborhood. That you'll take this so to heart, because we need to put this to an end. And it's only going to come through our individual efforts. And it's each and every one of us. And then those who aren't in the room, those who signed the DWID petition, those who didn't never even know anything about the DWID, a solution to the problem has to be brought to the heat for a solution has to be brought to bear again on this community. And I'm just asking that you consider what can you do, how can you multiply all the things that we've heard from Richard, from Representative Collard and Sandy. And Sandy, I have a request because your comments are so salient and so good. Would you please make your document available for distribution to everybody? Because it lays it out beautifully. And I think that's very hard for a lot of people today. Yeah.
And Richard goes by Robert Mitchell.
Robert Mitchell.
No problem.
That's okay, I'm Liz. Liz and Richard. We're a great team. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Why'd you come here? I can hold it a little bit better, I guess.
So this is for Mr. Mitchell. My experience with civil litigation would say that the chances of us getting a hearing with any jurisdiction, I'm assuming Maricopa County where you file, to have a solution for the summer is unrealistic expectation. So is there an expedited way that you see this case being filed as civil, being filed in such a way to where we can actually put leverage on the county in the time frame we need it?
Well, those are very good concerns. Oh, okay. Those are very good concerns and realistic ones, and you're right. Not only do we have to file the case and get it before a court and get the court to hear these issues after they've been briefed, but there's a process that you have to submit a claim to the county before they either reject it or don't respond to it before you can file. So no question about it. It's one of many processes that are available to the community to try to pursue. It's not an easy solution. It's not a quick solution, but once the process gets started, and again, we're having a meeting at Miller Ranch next week. I hope by next week, maybe 100 names have signed up that want to participate. Just the signal to the County Board of Supervisors that people are coming together to do something is going to get their attention. And that's what we're hoping. I mean, nobody wants to sue the county for 2 years and try to take this to trial. We want to get their attention and get them talking with the city of Scottsdale and fix this. And maybe the litigation just kind of goes to the wayside. We're just trying to supplement the process, not take over the process.
I understand, yeah, but my concern though is that this council, excuse me, the commissioners can just simply stall us out. I mean, they know how long that litigation will take. And if I'm sitting in that commission, I just say, we'll just stall them out. They need a solution short term, we can just wait them out. I mean, that's my concern. So appreciate what you're doing, appreciate putting the leverage on the county. I think that's great, but I think that right now litigation is going to be a troublesome route. So, thank you.
Come on, Cody.
Hi, Liz.
Get over here.
I do, Lee.
No. These things are
Okay. All right. Don't pull the mic away from me when I don't ask a question right
I
away.
promise, I'll
Okay,
always
thank
shake
you. My name's Cody Rhyme. It's an honor to be publicly called out twice by two different individuals in this meeting. So I want to bring something to everyone's attention. I work about 60 hours a week on average in my regular job. And right now I've been working about 30 hours on average in my regular job, but putting in about 90 hours a week. The deficit to my job has been going to Rio Verde Foothills. Because of the call out, I feel like I need to describe to you what we've been doing, what I believe this should do, and how it can help the community and defend my character at the same time. I don't like to toot my own horn, but because I was called out twice, I did not come up with the AG, whatever that is, behind closed doors. That was not me. But I was brought out that said, you know, that my name was spoken and said that I was probably a part of that. That was not me at all. John, Mr. Hornward can attest to the feat that this following statement has achieved. With a 3/4-ton truck that is 22 years old and has 300,000 miles on it, I have delivered almost 65,000 gallons of free water to Rio Verde Foothills in the last 60 days. And I extend that to everyone in this room, everyone in Rio Verde Foothills. This is what needs to happen right now. The legislature is great. I believe that's a good backup. I believe that that will move boulders in getting us water. That's all I want for Rio Verde Foothills. With the threat of the legislature, I believe the county or another entity, and I really am betting on another entity, will come to the table with Scottsdale within the next 2 weeks, and they will sign an IGA. That's what I'm thinking, and that's what I'm hoping and praying for. What needs to happen from within the community is what is happening with myself and a handful of other people. But it needs to happen on a larger scale. At the next meeting, Miss Nabity, please have well owners, after they look into the legality of it, because I don't care about the legality. I live by different rules. I live by help your neighbor, love your neighbor as yourself, and do unto others as you would have others do unto you. That's what I live by. Whether it be legal or not, I'm gonna help people. But everyone else needs to look at the legality and see if you're comfortable with it. If you own a well and you have the capacity, allow people to have that water be used for people that need it. Second, if you have the infrastructure to move water with a truck or a trailer, be willing to do so. And let's get, I don't want to say list, but I don't know if there's any other term for it, but let's get a list of people that can help. If you need water, get your name and your number on a list of people that are actually in need of water today, right now. And let's get some water to people that need it. That's what this meeting needs to do. At the next meeting at Miller Ranch, that needs to happen. 2 people cannot get water to all of Rio Verde Foothills, and that is what's happening right now. If I had 15 people, we could do 10 to 20-fold what we have done in the last 60 days. That needs to happen. Thank you.
My friend from last week.
Hey, I'll be good.
Did you happen to see that video clip that I peeled off from the City of Scottsdale meeting?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all over, and it shows exactly that Joy Rich, the county manager, and Rachel Mitchell, who is the county attorney, were in on the meeting with Scottsdale preparing that proposal. And you came up and spoke about that. But you obviously weren't at that meeting like us.
No, I wasn't at the meeting, but I knew the county was represented.
Right, so that City of Scottsdale proposal was actually combined with the counterparts of the city and the county.
Thank you, Lynn. I love Lynn. So, last week, for those of you that were here, last week you heard me say that I thought we were barking up the wrong tree, and that you can't throw all the blame at the county, and that we should really be pressing Scottsdale. Since then, like the next night, and for about a week since then, I've witnessed both the county and Scottsdale negotiating in good faith, and I am thoroughly impressed, and I thank this gentleman, Representative Cullivan, for pulling that together. So I stand corrected as well. My real quick questions, Representative. In the legislative discussions over the last week or so, has the county been at the table with Scottsdale?
Yes.
Thank you. And has set up, I didn't prompt this, but and has there been a representative of the state's, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, the Association of County Supervisors? She's the one that said that they can't set the precedent for the county being in the water business?
Maricopa County's public affairs person has been there, so their lobbyist essentially has been at the meetings. But in addition, it's a lot of rural members who are concerned about this, right? Well, we have to understand rural Arizona, especially in terms of water, they operate very, very differently. And they're very, even though you may feel that you're rural, and trust me, like, I'm not, I live in North Scottsdale, okay? You know, but, well, like, they do not want what they perceive as the 3 counties, or the cities, Maricopa, Pima, and Pinal, telling them how to live. So their counties definitely don't want to be in the water business, and that's going to be a non-starter for them as well. So that's the other thing. It should be said. It's not just coming from Maricopa.
Right. So I think the summary here is that there's probably equal fingers to point, if you really want to point fingers, at the county and the city, but neither of them are going to budge in their positions. We question whether Scottsdale really is prohibited from working with a private entity, i.e. EPCOR. And we also question whether the county even has the authority to do what we're asking them to do. So I think those are blockades that, unless the legislature can come down with a really strong hammer, you're not going to see that change. I've told Representative Culloden and others that the Standpipe District, I like Kavanaugh's term, the Standpipe Club, I think he joked about. It's the least preferred solution because it brings government into our community, but it may be the best solution because that entity really has no authority. They can buy the water and have someone process it. And so that may turn out to be the best solution, but if it gets past the 2/3 vote of both houses, House and Senate, it can go into effect right away.
Yep.
And if not, it has to wait until 90 days after the legislative session ends, which takes us sometime into the next century, right? I joke. So correct me if I said any of that wrong, but to Cody's point, I think our best bet is to pursue another government entity, another community that can be the other side of the intergovernmental agreement with Scottsdale. And if we can do that, everybody wins and it's the fastest solution. Correct me if I said anything wrong. Thank you very much, Representative Culloden. This guy has worked his tail off for us.
Anybody else? Hot microphone here, held by a hot blonde with a hat and dirty hair underneath. Yeah? Okay, I'm turning it off then.
I personally think we've had a great meeting. We've learned a lot, at least I have. I still think we need to pursue a lot of avenues, and one of which is to sign that petition, and also sign the one about litigation, and also volunteer. And do come to the next meeting at the Miller Ranch